Hey, Vsauce, Marshall here. Where are your fingers? If they're on the mouse about to close this video, please don't, I beg you. Because today I am here to review the new The Weeknd album, After Hours. I originally wasn't planning to review this album, but a friend of mine literally went,
Marshall, go listen to the new The Weeknd album, or I'll stab your Nintendo Switch.
And me being the good materialistic person I am, I've decided to check the album, and I've got to say, thanks for the recommendation, friend. Even though I still think treating my Switch wasn't necessary, I would never be able to go on a date with Fauna in those circumstances. Anyway, now back to the artist. I feel like introducing The Weeknd to you guys is a bit unnecessary. Everyone is familiar with Can't Feel My Face, Starboy and other songs by him, so let's just skip that, and go straight to his new album. Well, if you watched my video of every Hot 100 #1 song of 2019 from worst to best, you may remember I've said I wasn't really looking forward to this album, mostly due to how disappointing Heartless, the album's lead single, was. However, thankfully the album was much better than that track. Even though the track did went up in my concept after a while, it's still a track that I wouldn't really think it should be the lead single of an album, especially considering how many great tracks this album have, which I'll be talking in a minute. So for the bass, the main thing I loved about this album is how heavily it is inspired by one of my favorite genres of electronic music, Synthwave, which is a genre that brings to life the way the 80s saw the future, so the music at the same time it sounds very modern, it also sounds very 80s, and the first tracks also remind me a bit of lo-fi, which is basically the Diet Coke version of Synthwave. And perhaps because of that, I think the best tracks of the album are more in the end. Yes, in the beginning there is still some nice tracks, but the album only gets grip after the song, you guessed it, Heartless. So, enough talking about this mid-tier track, let's go to the album's highlights. Track 1. Alone Again. The first thing that caught my attention in the opening track of the album is its smooth beginning, with this flute-like synth that goes higher and lower alongside The Weeknd's vocals. After about 2 minutes of this, the song actually takes a punch, with a great beat, and the song keeps going with an amazing progressions. However, I do believe the auto-tune is a bit excessive, but I feel like that's personal, it was probably made to add to the song's style. Nonetheless, the song is still a great listen. Track 4. Scared to Live. This is a great ballad of this album. At some points, it reminds me a bit of Can't Feel My Face, and the little smooth synth that goes in the background of the song reminds me of the intro of Alphaville's Forever Young. And in the second half of the track we can hear a really fun bridge, that's just a bit short but still enjoyable. Track 8. Faith. The start of the track is much stronger than the tracks that came before it, and as it goes, we can hear an amazing rhythm, a nice mixture of fast and slow that makes the song be the peak of the synthwave style of this album, almost a synthwave virtuosity, and considering the album is heavy inspired by synthwave, it's needless to say that this is the best track of the album. Track 9. Blinding Lights. This track is the current Billboard Hot 100 #1 song for a reason. The intro is amazing and I almost feel like this could be the theme of the credit screen of Miami Vice, or at least be played in an episode set in a nightclub. This is the track that should have been the lead single of the album, an incredible song. That honestly just loses to Faith as the best track of the album by a pixel. Also, I'd like to give here a shout out to the track In Your Eyes, because to me it feels like Blinding Lights Part 2. It's not a positive highlight, but it's also a great listen. Track 11. Save Your Tears. This track has a really cool rhythm that when I hear I just picture an 80s themed nightclub and a bunch of people slow dancing on the dance floor. The chorus is addictive and the synth that plays after every verse is awesome. It might go down as one of The Weeknd's greatest slow tracks to me. And of course, since this album sadly isn't perfect, I must include here the negative highlights. Track 2. Too Late. When I am listening to the albums to make the reviews, I usually take notes of each song. Usually I get more stuff to mention and usually I get less stuff to mention, which is okay. But never since I've started this channel, I could find a single track that I couldn't find any notable characteristics. Until now. Too Late to me is that kind of track that is so bland to the point that it does not add anything to the album, neither for good or for bad. It's just a totally forgettable song that has no reason to exist. Track 5. Snowchild. That is the kind of track that to me gets as farther away from the spotlight as possible. It doesn't really stand out, it's just a mediocre song that, almost like Too Late, it may be forgotten soon, at least the chorus is not bad. Track 12. Repeat After Me. This track is slower, which as you may know, it's not a bad thing, since Scared to Live and Save Your Tears are slower great tunes, but Repeat After Me is not so extraordinary. In fact, to me it feels like one of those songs that you'd listen in that endless stream of the lo-fi hip-hop radio beats to relax and study that was added vocals later on, just another track on that stream, that some may pay attention to it, but most people will likely not hear it ever again. Welp, synthwave is a genre that is by standard great. It's very difficult if not impossible to make a genuinely bad synthwave song, so bland songs are one of the worst things that could happen in an album when it's inspired by this genre, and sadly, this album has a few of those tracks, which to me makes the rating of the album go down a little, but it's still a great listen indeed, and it even has some songs that are among my personal favorite The Weeknd songs. So, for a combination of those factors, this album takes from me a 7.6 out of 10. So that's it for today's video. What are your thoughts on this album? Please share it in the comments and leave a like and subscribe to my channel. My name is Marshall and see you next time.